All right, guys, new things. This is just test. ASA Classic is over with. I got the chance to get second at the Classic and Shooter of the Year, so I was happy with that. That was in my pins class that I've been shooting with. There's been thoughts of trying open, so I'm just messing with that right now. There's also been discussion about a new class at the ASA or an adjusted pins class. We'll see. That's all I know about that. That's all I got to say about that. Because today, I'm gonna go ahead and get the Mach 34 set up. It's hunting season in a month and a half, which seems crazy, but also awesome. So this bow, you know, I've had it set up already and I really enjoyed how it shot, but I just wanted a set of gas strings on there. So I did go ahead and get a set of their blackouts, which they ship within a couple of days of you ordering them. So I've already got them on the bow. All the accessories are on the bow. Really, I just need to put a peep in, knocking point, D-loop, shoot it through paper. I'm probably gonna have to mess with the shims again, but shouldn't be too big of a deal to get this thing set up and shooting. And like I said, hunting season is coming up, so I'm prepared early this year. All right, we got it set up, just tied in some knocking points and a D-loop, set the peep, tied it in. Here's a pretty bougie arrow build that I wanted to show you guys. So I've always liked these autumn orange aluminums from back in the day. Well, Easton released these full metal jacket autumn oranges for the second time, I believe. So I went ahead and picked some up, and that was gonna be the deal. But then I got carried away, and I've got some of these, what is it, Whitewater Archery, I believe? Wraps, reflective wraps. AAE Max vanes, I put gold tip, GT Nox, AccuTough Nox in there that fit these 204s. Iron Will components, that's a 25 grain impact collar, and I have the Iron Will 50 grain HIT insert, because when I shoot these full metal jackets or even Axis, a lot of times I'll bust up the end of the arrow when I shoot through a deer, and I've used their 75 grain half certs before, and I've kind of blown those out of the side of arrows as well. So with these collars and those inserts, I shouldn't have any issues. Pretty spendy, but it should make these pretty durable arrows. And then just, you know, because why not? I'm already blowing a bunch of cash. I went ahead and got these Smith Brothers match grade precision arrow points here, field points. And that's just for the little bit of 3D I'm gonna shoot with this. I'm gonna shoot local club stuff with this bow as I get ready for deer season. Wolf Run bow hunters this weekend, I'll be using this hunting bow hopefully. You know, and in doing all of this build, just kind of piecing things together, I made an arrow that's a little heavier than I want. This thing weighs 577 grains, which I'm generally shooting right around a 500 grains. So I always shoot 75 grains in the front, but that's generally on a 300 spine axis, which weighs quite a bit less than a 300 spine full metal jacket. So arrow came out a little heavy. I expect this bow to still shoot in the 270s, which is still plenty fast, but it's just got a little extra knockdown power. I didn't build it that heavy on purpose, but it's gonna work out just fine. Let's go ahead and fling this thing through a little bit of paper. All right guys, I got a little bit of a right tear, and I really don't, well, not a little bit, I've got a pretty steep right tear. And I don't wanna crank this rest out to the left, but I do have a little room, so I'm gonna move the rest first. And if I can't clean that up totally, which I don't think I will be able to, I'm gonna go ahead and use some of these shims and shift the cams over to the right, which should get rid of that left hair. But first, let's move this rest just barely to the left. All right, so second shot, you can see still a right tear, a little bit less. Not really comfortable moving my bow rest further left at this point. If I have to, I will, but for now, I've got a little bit of shim room left, so let's go ahead and pop those. All right, so I've got the shim kit out here. This is the EZ220. This is the tool you use to pull them. You can see pretty simple what it is. It's just a little peg, slides into that thing and pulls it out from the axle. And the way that those sit in here, you know, you put the bow in the press, you loosen the axles, you take that tool, put it in the hole, put the peg in the hole, and you yank it straight out, and then replace it with whatever size you need to shift this over. Now, what you got to make sure of, and they make this pretty easy, is that the total equals 220. And so they've got them paired up here. So you can see 100 and 120, 80 and 140, 60 and 160. And I'm gonna move this cam further to the right, quite a bit to the right. And the way I'm gonna do that is by taking this thick one, which is the 160, if it'll focus, and I'm gonna put that on the left side of the cam, and I'm gonna take this real skinny one. See the difference there? Fat, skinny. And put that skinny one on the right side of the cam, which is gonna move the cams over to the right, should clean up that right tear. See how quick and easy this is going. I just put the skinny one on that side, slid the cam over by hand, put the thicker one on this side, pops right in, and that cam is now shimmed. Tighten your axles. We'll do the same thing on the other side. All right, we got it out of the press. New shims are in. You can see that real skinny one on the right again. Old shims are out. That took less than 1 minute. Let's go try it again. You can see I still got the slightest right tear, but it's gone. There was the initial one. I moved the rest a little bit. There it is. Then I came and moved the shims. You can see it's gotten smaller. So we're definitely closer, but I tell you what, there's no adjustment on the cable guard here. If you put some more weight on that, sometimes you can clean that up. I have no more shim room left. That's actually shimmed all the way to the right. So what I'm gonna have to do, well, there's really two options. One is go ahead and shoot this thing and group tune it and not worry about your tear that much. I've shot a lot of bows perfect through paper, and then I go and group tune them, or just shoot groups and slightly move the rest left and right until my groups are the tightest they can be, come back and shoot it through paper, and I have a tear. Not all bows want to shoot a perfect hole, but I do like to start with one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and just creep this rest out a little bit and try to clean that up. Make sure it's not out of whack. It might not be the 13/16, but I'm gonna go ahead and move that rest just a little more and see if we can get it to shoot a hole. And then another thing, I'm shooting with stabilizers. So I tell you what, before I even move my rest, I'm gonna shoot this without bars and see what the difference is. Sometimes these bars will add a little torque into your shot. I've got a very consistent tear with incremental changes making incrementally different tears. So I'm not worried about inconsistencies in my shot necessarily, but you want to tune your bow to your stabilizers, but that could tell me I could swing this thing in and change my tear. So real quick, let's shoot it without bars, see what happens. Okay, so shooting without stabilizers really didn't change that tear much at all. Looks very similar to the one above it, so that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and put the bars back on, move that rest slightly, and see if I can clean this up. There's that last tear. You can see it's just barely a right tear as opposed to where we started. Number 1, number 2, number 3, really, both of those are the same. Number 4. All right, so one more little rest bump. We'll see what we got. All right, that'll do. That'll do. So it took us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th shot. Perfect bullet hole. Did have to shim it over a ways. The rest is just left of where most people measure it. But again, nothing in archery is a standard, and I'm very, very happy with that. And another thing to note, there's a sound to listen for when you're tuning as well. Shoot a bow, move the rest way out, and shoot it again. You'll hear the difference, and that's what I'm talking about. So this bow on those last couple of shots, it was just sounding super crisp, which tells me that all of the energy is going into that arrow, and it's just gonna be the most efficient that it can be. So tell you what, that's what I was looking to do tonight. Pretty quick and easy setup, and well, just hold on because I'll jump in. I'm gonna shut it down tonight, but I'll jump back on here and we will do some sighting in and some more tuning, get this thing ready to rock. All right, guys, got the chrono set up. I'm really just more curious than anything what the speed of this arrow is going to be. The bow's set at 65 pounds. I've got a 30.5-inch draw. Again, this arrow weighs 577. So I'd like to be around 270. I don't know if it'll quite make that, but let's shoot it and find out. Ooh, a little slower than we thought. So 65 pounds, 577, 30.5-inch. It says error. 253. 253. So you know what, I do want a little more speed than that, so I'm going to shoot this at 70 and we'll see if we can get up in the 60. All right, we cranked it down. I've got about another turn in the limbs, so this is all she's got. This will be the speed we shoot. 259. Show you that real quick. So 259. I was hoping for 270-ish, but that's a heavy arrow to be moving at that kind of speed. So 259, 577 grains. My tape's gonna be a little bigger than I want, but again, I'm just hunting whitetail, so my far shots are gonna be 30 yards. I don't even generally shoot there. It's almost always a 15 to 20 yard shot. So range, pin gap, not a big deal for me. The bow is super quiet with that heavy of an arrow, so that's awesome. But anyway, that's what it is. So now I'm going to go out and I'm going to set and creep tune this thing, which means I'm going to shoot at a horizontal line, pulling hard and shooting soft, and adjust timing to make sure those hit the same spot, the same horizontal line. And then we'll do a modified French tune, and this thing's going to be ready to sight in. So let's go knock that out. All right, so I came out here and just shot a few arrows to get onto the line, and I've got it sighted into where I can hit dead center of the line now. I'm gonna shoot another arrow for a control, just make sure I'm in the line, and then I'll go and I'll shoot a really soft shot, meaning I'm barely on the wall, and then I'll pull through the wall as hard as I can and shoot. The goal is for them to all stay in this line. If I'm hitting high or low with those things, then I need to adjust my timing a little bit. So let's go back and shoot another control, and then a couple more with that. I've got 4 arrows here, so I might as well shoot a control and then 2 pull in differently and see what happens. All right, so this was my second control, and I shanked it a little bit and I shot high. So that control I'm taking out of there. That was my first good shot. And then here were my next 2. Pulling as hard as I could and as light as I could. And you can see that they're both pretty well on the line. Now my goal was not to slap arrows. I was trying to aim further down the line, but I just kind of drifted over there. But I'm gonna go ahead and just repeat this test. I'm gonna shoot another 3 arrows at the line. You know, you've got to be as consistent as could be, and you've got to, when you do these kind of tests, you have to know when you make a good shot or know when you make a bad shot and really trust it. But just to tell you, I mean, this is only 20 yards. You'll really notice differences further, but I usually start at 20, and I'm not upset with this. This arrow's a little high, and like I mentioned, my control over here was a little high, so was that me? Maybe. So I'm gonna repeat this test. We'll see if we can repeat the results. All right, well, here's my 4 arrows. And this was control, pulling as hard as I could, which hit in the same exact spot. And this was my lightest pull, meaning I was barely in the wall. So that looks very good. This lower one being high, when you're barely pulling on the wall, you're not shooting your best shot. You know, you've always heard archers say, shoot a strong shot. That's when you're most accurate. And when I'm shooting normal, it's good. When I'm shooting really strong, too strong, still pretty good. But when I get real light and I'm all kind of floating around on the wall, I missed high. Now I'm gonna shoot this again. I'm gonna shoot a real soft arrow again to see if it hits high again or if it just hits less accurately. Because if I can repeat this high hit, then I might have to do a little cable twisting, but I can be honest with you. 20 yards, 4 arrows. These 3 matching tells me that we're probably okay, because when I'm pulling really hard, it's not going up or down. This is just a more likely arrow to miss. So let me try that again and we'll go from there. All right guys, so I just shot that arrow again. barely into the back wall, and this time I hit just barely low. So what that tells me is that I'm just way less accurate when I'm shooting the bow in that manner, which I know that to be true. I trust these three a lot more than I trust this arrow, but being that I hit just slightly above, just slightly below, and when I'm making nice, comfortable, good, strong shots, I'm hitting the same part of that line. I'm gonna call this good for now. Again, this is only a 20-yard test. You can back this up as far as you want and notice small differences, and I may do that later. But for today, I'm gonna call that good to go. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna hang a string down this, and I'm gonna get really close to the target within a couple of feet, and I'm gonna shoot that string, and I'm going to adjust my sight to hit that string at close yardage. And then I'm gonna go back to 15 or 20 yards, and I'm gonna shoot at it again, and I'm gonna move my rest until I hit it, and then I'll come up, move my sight till I hit it, go back, move my rest, just making tiny incremental changes until I'm drilling the same spot up close and from a distance. And that's called a modified French tune. And if with these two things after paper, generally I feel pretty darn good about stuff. But it's nice to see right off the bat that these things are hitting no issue as far as the creep tune goes. So let's get a string hung and try that out. All right, I've got my string up, and I just take a washer, a deck screw. This is actually an old bowstring off of a buddy's bow. The reason I kind of like an old bowstring is because when you shoot this, it can actually split the strands of the string, because I've tried this with D-loop material, and it'll hit and bury that into the target and blast the screw out. And it still might with this bowstring, but there's a better chance that it splits the threads. And then I just tie some stabilizer weights onto the bottom to hold it straight. And it's a fairly tedious process, but we're gonna start by just shooting at it really close, hitting the string, and then moving back. So that's what we're looking to do. We're standing at just a couple of yards, and we sighted in and took quite a few shots. Just, a couple clicks doesn't move you far at that range, but probably 7 or 8 shots, and got it sighted into where I can split the string. So now I'm gonna go back to 15 yards, and I'm gonna shoot at the string again, and I'm gonna shoot several arrows down the string, and I'm gonna see if they're on the left side, the right side, or on either or, and we'll assess that and go from there. Okay, so I only shot 2 arrows, and you can see these are both obviously to the right after the string split. So that tells me I'm gonna move my rest to the left, and all you wanna do is move your rest until basically you're sighting in with your rest at this point. And then I'll hit the string, and then I'll walk up here and I'll move the sight until I hit the string. And I'll walk back and make sure that these arrows hit the string. If they don't, I'll move the rest. And you move back and forth, playing between your rest and your sight, just tiny, tiny changes until they're hitting the same. So I won't bore you with all of that, but I'm gonna go ahead and finish out this process, and I'll show you what it's done. All right, guys, so this took a little while, but it's kind of just the game you have to play. Moving the rest over and then going back and clicking the sight a couple times and going back and moving the rest. And this is what I just ended up with. I shot and split the string, and then I went back to 15, and without moving the sight, this thing was hitting right here. I wasn't good enough to split the string back there, but I was able to touch it on the right side, touch it on the left side, which tells me that the average is the middle. And so I'm hitting exactly in line, at least from, a few feet back to 15 yards, which should, again, this is another one of those things where you can back it up and take this out as far as you want to. But for me, if I can get this all going good at 20 yards, then I'm going to be the bow is going to be more accurate than me out to as far as I like to shoot. So those are the couple things that I like to do. I paper tuned it first, got a bullet hole, and then I came in and creep tuned it, which I didn't even need to make a change, which is awesome. No twisting the cables at all. But with this, I did have to move my rest just slightly, and here I am. So tuning is done, guys. All that's left to do is to sight this bow in. I will do that later this week and take it to Wolf Run this weekend. Today is Wednesday. We shoot there on Sunday, but that should give me plenty of time. 20-yard pin is already spot on. So I just got to get my 30, 40, and 50 dialed down. That shouldn't take long, and she's ready to rock. So there you go. PSE Mach 34, extremely nice bow. I really like how accurate this thing is, and that's the reason I picked it up. I value accuracy over most other things. It's not shooting that fast. We're shooting right at 260, but that's a 577 grain arrow, but it makes it quiet. It makes it accurate. It's gonna penetrate well, and it's gonna kill a lot of deer this year. I'm ready.